Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I want to talk about superhero fatigue. Obviously, this is the point in time where superheroes are big. It's always interesting because like I feel like at this point in time, and it's weird to say like superheroes have hit like the biggest, most mainstream that they've ever hit before, which sounds so weird for me to say because it's not like superheroes haven't already been mainstream all across the board, whether it be in video games or comic books or whatever the case may be. But obviously we're in that height of like superhero stuff all across the board, and obviously it burns out a lot of people, especially when you're in something like the MCU. Like that's a great example of like, oh yeah, the MCU, which is like this long narrative that you're getting all these different superhero movies spinning out from, that you kind of get a little fatigue from because there's just so many, to the point there's at one point in time there were 2 coming out a year. Lately it's kind of been like, oh, more like 3 coming out a year. Plus, on top of all that, you have everything related to the MCU. There's all the TV shows, the ones on Netflix, ones not on Netflix, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., as well as like the newest one being like Cloak and Dagger, so stuff like that. And that's just on the MCU front. There's also like the Marvel X-Men front, where you have like The Gifted and Legion TV show wise, but then you have like the X-Men movies, which have been going on since, was it 99 or 2000? Like it's not like superhero movies have only just started coming out. It's like they've been coming out. The best example being like the Batman movies being ones that I kind of grew up with, but even before that, Superman movies. And it's just gotten grown and grown and grown and grown over the years. And like I said, it's just so much. And I find that so fascinating because I haven't reached that fatigue point. I'm sure a lot of people have, just because it's like, oh, it's too much. And I wonder, where is that for most people? Is it because it's because they're interested in superhero movies, they don't care that much? Or is it because they like superhero movies, but there's just too many of them, too similar? Like, I'm curious what the argument is for most people in that sense. I'm not going to tell someone's like, oh my God, how can you be so fatigued of superhero movies, like, oh, you must not be a fan. I'm not going to tell someone something like that. It just fascinated me because I've not reached that point yet. But part of me wonders, is that because of my particular situation? And the fact of the matter is, I've never read a lot of comic books, so for me, the storylines are brand new. Like, I've never had any experience with these characters. Like, the 3 characters I can honestly say I've had the most experience with growing up and knowing the most about, like even then I don't know a lot about them, is Spider-Man, Batman, and Superman. Those are probably the top 3 heroes that I know relatively well. I know quite a bit about Superman and his whole circumstances. Obviously, as time is going on, I've learned more and more around his circumstances, obviously with shows like Smallville, as well as, I mean, obviously more recently like Krypton, and the movies and stuff like that, the animated series from the 90s. Batman, I grew up watching a lot of Batman cartoons. There have been a lot of iterations of Batman cartoons, and there's also been like a whole bunch of Batman movies and video games. Spider-Man is a great example because that's one I've always talked about being easily one of my favorite superheroes, if not my favorite superhero. And the fact is because I grew up watching so many Spider-Man cartoons, and that kind of feeds into what I'm curious about when it comes to me. Is it nostalgia that makes me the way I feel about superhero movies? Not in the sense of because, oh, these are characters I grew up with, like, not like, because I love all superhero movies I see, and I'm wondering, or not even just superhero movies, but TV shows too. Is it because I'm nostalgic because these are characters I never got to know and experience their stories? Because in Spider-Man's case, I've talked about it before, it makes sense because like I said, I grew up watching a lot of Spider-Man cartoons. That's why like I think that helps in why Homecoming is my favorite like MCU movie. At least like when it comes to the solo stuff, I kind of broke that down in a little bit in the past. But obviously it's not just the nostalgia. There is like the whole aspect. I just like the movie as a whole, but I wonder how much of it is nostalgia, you know, because I love Spider-Man as a character. But all these other characters, it's getting to experience these heroes that I know a little bit about and get to see them in these TV shows or movies, kind of get their own time to shine, and I think maybe I really appreciate that. And it is kind of interesting to me because even at this point in time, I'm still not burned out because I'm always excited for the next TV show or the next movie to come out. Always interested to see where like the next episode or the next season is going to take this particular superhero story, the next movie is going to take this particular hero story. I mean, most recently I even did a whole bunch of videos talking about it, but I recently went back and rewatched the MCU movies so far. Everything from Iron Man to Black Panther, I went back and rewatched and still enjoyed them and loved them none the same. It never felt like this tiring thing because it's like there's like all these stories I already know, but it's because I went back and I recognized and noticed things that I never noticed the first time through. I don't know, it's such a fascinating thing to me, the whole like superhero fatigue. I mean, I guess you consume enough of anything, you're going to be tired of it, but it's just like I find it fascinating that I haven't gotten to that point yet. So I mean, ultimately my question to you is, have you reached that point? Have you reached superhero superhero fatigue because of all these superhero movies and TV shows and stuff like that. Let me know where you stand in everything too, like whether it's like taking the MCU for example, like are you full in on the MCU? Have you seen everything up to this point? Or are you just a casual viewer of just all things superhero? Is it just, you know, because you know, for some people maybe they will only go like, oh, like I'm MCU, that's the only thing I'm interested in, because these are big superhero things with like big budgets and stuff like that, and they're, you know, good movies, so that's all you care about, but you never really tackle anything else. Also tell me, it's like your experience with, you know, comic books or anything a big influence into that as well, whether you have superhero fatigue or your lack thereof. Like, does, you know, you having a comic book history with these characters make it different for you? Or are you like me, where you have no comic book history at all and you're just kind of all around excited, ready for the next superhero project to pop up? I'd love to hear what you had to say in the comments down below. I'm very fascinated, you know, to hear what other people's opinions and how they feel about this whole situation. So, but really, that's all I'm going to talk about in this video. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good